Hello and welcome to another AARP Arizona Happy Hour virtual tour. I am Brenda with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, the AARP Magazine and the AARP Bulletin. During this month, AARP will offer events and enriching experiences close to home and from your home that help you make connections and serve others. While our situations are different, our need for connection is universal. Now more than ever, we know that connecting with family and friends is vital to aging well and living longer and having happier lives. Visit us at aarp.org/AZ for more information. Thank you again for attending, and with that, I will turn things over to Marshall.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, and hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy that you can be here this evening. Oh my gosh, we have a great show for you tonight. But first off, let's talk a little bit about I want to say, I'm happy you're able to see us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and all kinds of places. You can also catch old episodes on YouTube as well. So my name is Marshall Shore, and I am your host this evening. And today is September. I'm sorry, I keep saying September, and I know it's not September. It is February, because we just did Statehood Day yesterday. Now, while I was going to bed last night, sadly, in southern Arizona, there was something horrible happening. Bisbee fire. There were two buildings right on Main Street that have caught fire. They have the fires put out, but they don't quite know the extent of the damage in terms of the area. So last I heard, Main Street is shut down. So we wish them well. No one came to any harm in those fires. So we are happy about that, because I love Bisbee so much. What an amazing, great little town. All right. So let's talk about today, the 15th. So, back in 1952, Mesa tourism was booming. Why? They had accommodations for 5,000 folks, and it wasn't enough. They had lots of folks coming through. They had people coming in deciding, I love Mesa. I want to buy a house and move there. And so that's why you've got some of those great old motels going right through Main Street in Mesa. And so some of those are still there. Some are still hotels. Some have become other things. So it is also National Hippo Day. That's right. Those semi-aquatic mammals that are native to sub-Saharan Africa. Did you know they're related to the whales, dolphins, and porpoises, not to dogs, pigs, or things like that? Now, these herbivores can weigh up to 2,000 kilograms, making them the third largest mammal, right after rhino and elephants. Now, also being the day after Thanksgiving, it is also Love Reset Day, a day when some folks, might have a rude awakening of maybe traditional romance is not what they had in mind. This is a day where you can go into contemplative self-discovery and introspect and just figure out what you want. It is also, if you need something to sweeten the day, it is Gumdrop Day. Now, these unique, fun, great decorations are pretty much come in all sizes, shapes, colors, and various amounts of sugar. Now, also, it is Butterscotch Day. because we get a chance to celebrate that good creaminess and yum, yum. Now, it is also the birthday of Susan B. Anthony. She was an American social reformer, civil rights leader who fought for women's rights, suffrage, as well as opposed slavery. Her contributions to the passage of the 19th Amendment back in 1920, which gave the women the right to vote. And so you can wind up with a Susan B. Anthony dollar if you buy something out of a postal vending machine. And I know some folks who collect those. So, all right. So there we go for the 15th of February, as well as indeed yesterday was Statehood Day. So, but more on that in just a moment. So, what can you expect from Happy Hour? Well, we always do trivia because we have an amazing guest on tonight, as well as Little Arizona. We do some music history. And of course, there's a beverage because it wouldn't be Happy Hour without a beverage. Now, I told you my name is Marshall Shore, but I also have the moniker the Hip Historian. And so because it is kind of Statehood Day, so lots going on, Scottsdale City Lifestyles Magazine, as well as Paradise Valley Lifestyles Magazine, both did pieces on me. So if anybody finds those magazines, let me know. I've got to run out in the next few days and try to find a copy of my very own. Now, also, I spent the weekend at the Capitol because I was there for Win Holden, former editor of the Arizona Highways. He was doing a presentation on 100 years. Did you realize they're celebrating their 100th anniversary coming up in 2025? And then this Friday, I am at the Alwyn House. They are doing Erotic Poetry and Music Festival, and I'm going to talk about some amazing Arizona music by Rusty Warren. So if any of you know her name, you might know what I'm going to be doing. So if you want to attend that, you can take a look at Alwyn House at their website. And then on Saturday, I'm going to be down at the Tucson Desert Art Museum. We're going to be talking about kind of gold and greed. That should be a lot of fun. And then, oh my gosh, coming up the following week out at the Mesa Historical Museum, I'm going to be doing Arizona Cat Tales, stories of Arizona cats. You might not have thought we had any. I didn't know we did until suddenly it's like, I go hunting, which is part of the fun of just saying, hey, what do you know about this? You'll be shocked to see what we discover. And also, you get to check out the Mesa Historical Museum. They've got Karen Kuykendall, her art, which is kind of, how do you say, like space age cats, well into the future. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I know there's a fashion show of her stuff as well as other presentations, and you can even adopt a cat if you want to do that. As well as that same day on the 24th, the Pioneer Cemetery over on Jefferson near the Capitol is going to be doing Spirits of the Old West. Now, if you go to their website, azhistoriccemeteries.org, you can buy a ticket or just show up and buy a ticket. It'll be a lot of fun. They'll have people stationed around the cemetery telling you about who they are and how they wound up being interned at the library. I'm sorry, not the library. That's the Carnegie Library, but this is just down the street from that. And so it's going to be a lot of fun because there's a ton of history in that cemetery. And then March 2nd, we have Melrose Fair coming up, and that's always a hoot. I will have a booth there, so come on by and say hello. Now, some of you I know, I love to hear from you, and so you can reach out to me. There is the chat session that you can see here. There is also, you can reach me on Facebook, Instagram, email hello@hiphistorian, or even through my website, hiphistorian.com. So check it out. And also, we just set up the next round of the walking tour for Downtown Haunted History. I'm in downtown Phoenix, and that is going to be March 23rd. So again, hiphistorian.com can be your best friend, as well as some other fun events coming up. All right. So when I was talking to PJ about what should our cocktail be, he was like, we just finished not only Valentine's Day, Statehood Day, but Mardi Gras. And so that's what he decided. He was like, hey, let's have a cocktail right from New Orleans. So here we go.
So here I am in one of the private tasting rooms we have here at Sazerac House. I'm going to demonstrate for you how to make a perfect Sazerac cocktail. You start with 2 glasses. In one, I'm going to add ice and set it aside to chill. In the next glass, I'm going to add a sugar cube and 3 dashes of Peychaud's bitters. I'm gonna muddle all that up to like a nice paste. I'll take 1.5 ounces Sazerac rye whiskey. I'm gonna add some ice and stir. You want to stir until all the ingredients are well incorporated, chilled, properly diluted. Take this glass that was chilling and dump out the ice. Add 1/4 ounce of herb saint. Swirl it around your nice chilled glass and toss out the excess. Now I'm going to strain this mixture of rye whiskey, sugar, and Peychaud's bitters into my chilled herb saint coated glass. The final touch is a long peel of lemon. Spritz that oil right across the top and coil the lemon, placing it on the side of the glass. And there you have a perfect Sazerac cocktail.
And so we're also going to be doing Arizona, Little Arizona, as we get a chance to talk about a small town called Valentine. Have any of you ever been to Valentine? It's the little town right on Route 66. I'm trying to click on too many buttons here and figure out what's going on. Now, the town of Valentine started off when the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad came through the area in the early 1880s. And then a little side town was built called Truxton. Now, there is a town called Truxton, but that became Truxton in the 50s. And at that point, there was a school built, sadly. And so that school was originally built it was the Truxton Canyon Training School, opened for the nearby Hualapai, Apache, Hopi, Mojave, Navajo, and Papago tribes. It was part of that whole education, assimilation of Indians into American culture. I mean, we had one here in Phoenix that was operating until just a couple decades ago. Actually, several decades ago. We'll just say that. In 1910, the town was renamed Valentine after Robert G. Valentine, who was the commissioner of the Indian Affairs from 1909 to 1912, as well as the old National Trail went right through there, which became Route 66. Now, with the school, there was actually a separate school built that also was built for the white children in the neighborhood, and that was called the Little Red Schoolhouse. And so those buildings are still standing there today, and they are on the Register of Historic Places. So hopefully they will be around. But I think one of the cool things is Valentine had their own postmark, because February 14th, for Valentine's Day, businesses would be so excited that people were coming in town for that special stamp. Now, sadly, in 1990, there was a robbery of the post office and someone didn't make it through. And so that's when they shut down the post office. And now you can still get that Valentine's Day stamp, but it now comes through Kingman. All right. Well, now you get a chance to hear from someone else. Oh my gosh. And you are going to have so much fun. All right. So let's bring on. Hello, Nate.
Hi, Marshall.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So for folks that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm the executive director of the Sedona Historical Society and Sedona Heritage Museum in beautiful Red Rock country, which you can see in my background there. Yeah.
Indeed.
Been here a couple of years now. It's year and a half. A lot of fun. Love being up here.
I'm sure it is. I mean, what a great community it is up there.
It really is. It's a great community. I think most of us probably know it as a tourist town. It's been really exciting getting to know it as a community that people call home, and there really is a real strong sense of community among the people who live here. It's really cool.
And oh my gosh, there's that film festival.
Film festival's coming up. I think it starts next week.
Oh my gosh, that's
week and a half, 24th, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Sedona International Film Festival, big deal.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I've run up there for some films, so it is definitely a good time.
Yes.
And they wind up bringing a lot of like the directors or stars of the films.
Oh yeah, all the indie filmmakers show up. Some stars show up once in a while if they're involved with the films, but it's a really great opportunity to meet up and comers or kind of some indie folks, and just a really great event. They do a really great job with it.
Indeed.
I think, and this is their 30th anniversary too. So
I didn't know.
Them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are going to do some trivia. Yes. And so now, trivia here is not the same way as everyone else does. If you've been to bar trivia where it's, once the answer, you move on along. So what we will do is we will go through our questions, and then we'll take a little bit of an Arizona music break and talk about the stories behind those answers. And that's for me where all the fun happens. Now, you can keep track of it in the trivia. Some folks do it in the chat session. I know Anita has a special notebook she keeps track of everything in. So whatever floats your boat, you can do exactly that. All right. So our first question is, which Arizona musician attended Sedona Red Rock High School? A, Alice Cooper, B, Linda Ronstadt, C, Michelle Branch, or D, Stevie Nicks? Oh, that's a good one because they're all Arizona musicians.
It's a tough one.
It is. All right. Question 2. Sedona is the birthplace of what Arizona industry? A, wine, B, beer, C, mead, or D, tequila? Oh.
I don't know.
Cheers to that. All right. Question 3. How did Sedona get its name? A, from the Spanish conquistador Manuel de la Sedona. B, a tourist looking at the red rock said, "See, Donna," to her friend. C, the Sedona Sea formed the red rocks. Or D, it is named for the wife of the area's first postmaster. So which one of those do you think is how Sedona got its name? I almost said Sedona. How did Sedona get its name?
Giving it away, Marshall.
I know. All right. So question 4. Joe Beeler, George Phippen, Charlie Dye, and John Hampton formed what national arts organization in Sedona's Oak Creek Tavern? Is it A, the National Endowment for the Arts, B, the Cowboy Artists of America, C, the Americans for the Arts, or D, the National Sculpture Society? So which one of those national arts organizations was formed in a tavern in Sedona? Again, I will drink to that.
A lot of alcohol history here tonight.
I'm shocked. All right. Question 5. How did Capricorn Hill in Sedona get its name? A, it's the site of a Capricorn zodiac New Age shrine. B, it's home to the Capricornus, the goat. C, it is where the surrealist artist Max Ernst created his monumental sculpture, Capricorn. Or D, the hill is shaped like the Capricornus goat. I bet it's a goat-related answer. There seems to be too
lots
many
of funny-looking rock formations up here. So
indeed, teapots and all kinds of things.
that's right.
All right. The Hanukkah and the Palataki are cliff dwellings in Sedona area built by which indigenous culture? Is it A, the Hohokam, B, the Sinawa? Am I saying that one right?
Sinawa.
I was like, I didn't sound right. Okay. Or C, Apache, or D, Yavapai. So which indigenous culture do you think built some cliff dwellings up in the area? All right. Moving on to question 7. In what year was the first film made in Sedona? Was it A, 1923, B, 1977, C, 1980. See, the alcohol's getting to me. See, 1980.
Sazerac's hitting hard, huh?
I know. Just saying the answer is getting hard. Good gosh. All right. Or was it last year? Was when the first film was made up in Sedona? All right. Question 8. Which legendary actor starred in a movie filmed in Sedona? Was it A, Elvis, B, Joan Crawford, C, Jimmy Stewart, or D, William Shatner? I don't think Mommy Dearest was filmed there, but you never know.
Not saying.
All right, question 9. What was the harmonic convergence? A failed Sedona music festival with less planning than Woodstock 99. B, a Sedona-based theremin and steel guitar band. Ooh, that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. C, the name of the original Sedona Crystal Shop. Or D, a cosmic event which ushered in a new era of world peace. So which one of those do you think is the harmonic convergence? I'm putting my money on a theremin. Just because I really want a theremin, but
oh, they're fun. They're a lot.
They are indeed. They have one at MIM that you get to play with. So.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah.
All right. So question 10. What makes Sedona's famous red rocks red? See, and I was able to say that. So cheers to that.
Yeah, there you go. Made it through that one.
Indeed. All right. A, artists painted them red over 100 years ago. B, it's an optical illusion. In the right light, they are all gray. C, oxidized iron, aka rust in the rocks. Or D, we are all living in a simulation and nothing is real. Well, here, let me take my my Apple glasses off and let's see what really is going on here. Oh my gosh. All right. So while you are locking in your final answers, we are going to talk a little bit some Arizona music. And I thought since we just finished statehood, let's talk about Arizona has a state bolo. We've got pretty much a state everything. And did you know? So back in 1919, the official state song was Arizona March Song, which you don't really hear because it's not very good. Well, it's not very musical. I will say that. It's not pleasant to the ear. And so back in 1982, Arizona, or I Love Arizona, was written by Rex Allen Jr., and then that was adopted as kind of an official state song as well. But, I was poking around when I was looking for exact dates for things and found out that in 1901, we had a territorial song called Hail to Arizona, the Sun-Kissed Land, which I've never heard music for. So I have no idea if it was lyrical or quite what it was. So if anyone knows of any recordings, I would love to hear them. And then I discovered that in the 50s, there was this competition to write a brand new song for Arizona. A team from California won, and they were supposed to get a record deal out of it and everything. I've yet to find anyone who's ever heard of this song. They were fairly famous, had success with other songs, but that's all we know. So if anybody has that record or knows where I can find a copy, let me know. All right. So now who is ready for some answers? All right. Question 1. Which Arizona musician attended Sedona Red Rock High School?
Yeah, it was Michelle Branch.
Wow.
Breakout star of the early 2000s, right here from Sedona. You know, I wish I had a really great story about Michelle Branch, a personal one. I don't yet. I'm hopeful.
I like that yet part.
Yes.
Like,
but Alice Cooper, when I graduated from ASU back in 2009, Alice Cooper played Schools Out in Sun Devil Stadium, and it was like the most amazing and mind-blowing thing to have Alice Cooper actually performing Schools Out at your school graduation.
wow.
Has nothing to do with Michelle Branch, but
no, but how cool is that?
It was really cool.
I mean, that Arizona musicians helping support Arizona education.
That's right.
Very cool. All right. And Sedona is the birthplace of the Arizona wine industry.
That's right. Henry Shorman with his Red Rock wine. It was a Zinfandel grape that he used. In the 1880s, he came into possession of some land in this area, and it was not far from Oak Creek. And it was a debtor who owed him. And he lived in Prescott at the time, and he came over here and he looked at the land, and it was on a hill and it was dry. And he was like, what am I going to do with this? And he couldn't sell it. And so he tried growing several things on it, and grapes took off. And so he turned it into a vineyard and winery, and it was Arizona's first commercial winery right here in Sedona. He kept trying to move his wine into prohibition. And as your audience probably knows, Arizona went dry before the country went dry. And so he got arrested with a handful of 50-gallon barrels of wine, transporting them in 1915 after prohibition had gone in place. And he was arrested, and he was pardoned by the governor during World War I, and allowed to leave prison because his sons had gone to serve in the military, and there was no one to care for the farm. So
wow,
that's how he got away with it. But the Shormans didn't go back to the grape or wine industry after prohibition was lifted. But a local vineyard here, Page Springs Cellars, has spent quite a bit of time and resources in resuscitating those 140-year-old grapevines. And 2 years ago, they produced the first batch of Sherman Red Rock Zinfandel wine in over 100 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
okay. Will you do me a favor and keep your ear to the ground? So if there are any bottles of that, I would love a glass.
I don't know if there are any bottles left. I will find out.
But if they produce any more, because I'm like, I mean, vines of that age.
Yeah. Last year they didn't get enough to produce any wine. This year, I haven't heard how the harvest was yet. So fingers crossed that they're able to produce a little bit this year.
That would be amazing. And I know PJ would love that as well.
Yeah, super cool what they're doing there.
All right. Question 3. How did Sedona get its name?
Yeah, named for Sedona Schneble. Her husband, T.C. Schneble, was the first postmaster in this area in the early 1900s. And the U.S. Postal Service said, hey, we need a name for this post stop. What are you going to call it? And he kept coming up with these long names, Schneble Hill Station and Oak Creek Station and that kind of stuff. And they were like, no, we need it to be one word. And he's kind of stumped. And he goes to his brother and he's like, what do I do? And his brother's like, buddy, name it after your wife. And so he did.
Wow.
Yeah. Sedona Schneble. by the way, following up on that last question about the wine, Sedona Schnebley was a member of the Women's Christian Temperance Union. And so she was a prohibitionist. So I always like to think about what were those conversations like when she ran into the Shurmans around town.
Probably it was not. I'll drink to that.
Right.
Lisa's going to yell at me. I have a feeling for that comment. All right. So Joe Beeler, George Phippen, Charlie Dye, and John Hampton formed what artist organization sitting in a tavern?
Yeah, the Cowboy Artists of America, formed right here in Sedona, in Oak Creek Tavern. Anyone who's been to Sedona at the last, in recent memory, that's where the Cowboy Club is today, right there on 89A, corner of 89A and Jordan Road. Yeah, but there's a picture of them at that formation of the Cowboy Artists of America right there in the tavern. We've got a couple of tables and chairs and stuff from that too. So
very cool.
Very cool.
And I love the fact that you have some of the furniture that was actually used when that was created.
Absolutely. And we've got a whole exhibit about Joe Beeler and some of the other cowboy artists in this area. Joe Beeler had a studio here for a very long time.
Oh. All right. Question 5. How did Capricorn Hill in Sedona get its name?
This is going to disappoint the goat fans out there.
Indeed.
But yeah, surrealist artist Max Ernst moved to Sedona in the 40s and built a studio on what is today Capricorn Hill off of Brewer Road. Anyone familiar with Sedona? It's kind of behind Tlaquepaque. The sculpture there that you see in the picture, that's him standing in the background. His wife, Dorothea Tanning, who was a phenomenal surrealist artist in her own right, posing there on his really kind of his masterpiece, Capricorn.
Wow. I love it. So when people hear like the name Max Ernst, they probably don't think Sedona. But I mean,
no, his studio was here for a long time. After he and Dorothea married, they left New York, and they kind of had to leave New York because he'd been married to a Guggenheim, and he left Peggy Guggenheim to marry Dorothea Tanning. So bit of a social outcast for a little bit.
Right.
I mean, New York, they came to Sedona, who isn't inspired by the beautiful red rocks here, right?
Right.
And they were here for several years before Joe McCarthy, Senator McCarthy, and his Committee for Un-American Activities, exploring the communists in our midst, kind of turned his attention on Max Ernst as a German-born artist and bohemian. He must be a communist, right? And so before the heat could get turned up too high, they left and pulled up stakes and headed for Germany.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a Red Scare right in our own backyard here in Sedona. Who would have known?
Indeed. All right. So who built those what called indigenous culture built those cliff dwellings?
Yeah, the Sinawa, prehistoric peoples in this area for 1,500 years or so. And we call them Sinawa. We have no idea what they called themselves. They disappeared around 1400 or so. They disappear from the archaeological record. Lots of theories about what happened to them. I included Hohokam as one of the answers because they disappeared in similar fashion around similar time period, right, from the Salt River Valley.
Right.
Sinawa is funny though. It's a name that means it's Spanish, and if you break it down, it's seen without agua, water, without water. And who can live without water, right? It's a misnomer that archaeologist from Museum in Northern Arizona was the first one to kind of uncover evidence of the Sinawa in the archaeological record around Flagstaff. And there are no perennial surface water sources in Flagstaff, right? They're all seasonal. And so he said, wow, these amazing people learned to live without water. I'm going to call them Sinawa. And then as more evidence was uncovered, it turns out, of course, that they are they're centers of population were along Oak Creek here in the Sedona area and the Verde River, because of course people cannot live without water.
Right. So they're probably good at transporting water, but
and
without...
making use of it close. They had some irrigation to a small extent, but got to have that water.
Wow.
Yeah, and so Hananki and Palatki are a couple of cliff dwellings that are popular destinations. People who've visited Sedona maybe have visited those sites.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, but I didn't realize when you break down the name, kind of that it was a name kind of thrust on them. Yes.
Yep. Because we don't know much about them except what we can discover in the archaeological record, and without a written language, it's difficult to discover anything about their culture.
Right. All right. And question 7. In what year was the first film made in Sedona?
1923. Last year was the centennial of the film industry here in Sedona. First movie was The Call of the Canyon. It was an adaptation of Zane Grey's novel of the same name. Zane Grey, he liked to write his novels on location. And then when he made film adaptations, he insisted on them also being filmed on location. And so Call of the Canyon takes place in Oak Creek Canyon here in Sedona. So it's filmed here. Interesting thing about that, it was thought that all of the film of Call of the Canyon, all the copies of it had disappeared, been destroyed, whatever, over time. I mean, 100 years. Some time ago, about 20 years ago, the last known copy of it surfaced in Russia, of all places. But now it's been transferred back to the United States and it's part of the National Film Archive.
Wow.
Yeah. But all that survives is about a 15-minute clip of it.
Well, yeah, because I mean that early film was so flammable.
Yeah, well, nitrate film is incredibly dangerous.
Right.
Always on the lookout for it in museums and archives too, because that's scary stuff. That'll just combust.
So I always like to show a video at the end. And so today we're going to end on a 1955 Nash commercial that Disney was brought in to film. And I think there's a piece that's in Sedona.
Well, I'm sure there is. Disney did some filming here. And in fact, the site where the museum is in the 50s, 60s, it must have been the 60s. Disney was here filming for a movie, and the name of the movie escapes me. It was not one of their more popular ones, but it was a live action one. And they rented the apple packing shed that is now part of my museum here. And they put a whole set in there, and they were shooting, and production ran long. And the owner of the orchard said, "Hey, Walt, I need to sort my apples. Sorry, you got to go." And so they had to halt production, move the whole set to an empty hangar at the Sedona airport, and finish shooting up there.
Wow.
So there's movie history all over this community.
And another fine reason to visit Sedona airport. When I take friends from out of town, that's where I always go, have lunch at the airport.
Mesa Grill.
Yep. Yeah, and just sit there and watch the planes come in and out.
Yep.
I mean, just that drive up is spectacular. Ooh, I didn't know there was Disney history there now.
There's Disney history there. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. And so if you go on IMDb and look, at Sedona as a filming location, there's over 300 films that have been shot here in Sedona over the years.
Indeed. And I think we might be talking about some of those coming right up. Fancy that lead in to question 8. Which legendary actor starred in a movie filmed in Sedona?
Yeah, all of them. All of them and many, many more. Right. Especially in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, kind of the golden age of the Western. There were about 125 Westerns that were shot here in Sedona. And the reason for that, is that our scenery is just so remarkable. Sedona has stood in for many other locations, including Mexico, New Mexico, California, Colorado. For some reason, Canada. A filmmaker thought that Sedona would make a nice stand-in for Canada. It was such a popular place, and part of that was due to the Duke himself, John Wayne. The first movie that he ever directed, not that he ever starred in, the first movie he ever directed was a movie called Angel and the Bad Man that was filmed here in Sedona. And it required the construction of a Western town movie set. And so the studio built him a whole Western town right below Coffee Pot Rock. And so they filmed it there. And then dozens more films used it over the years before it kind of fell into disrepair in the 60s and disuse. But there is one last surviving building from that movie studio, and it's what we call the telegraph office, and it's actually here, part of our museum. Actually, you can see it over my shoulder here in the picture. We call it the telegraph office because it was a railroad depot from Winona, Arizona, that the studio purchased and moved here. And in Angel and the Bad Man, it was set up as a telegraph office, and it played a feature role in that film. John Wayne is shot and he staggers through the door to send a telegraph.
Because that would be my last thing I would do if I've been shot. I'm going to send a telegraph.
But yeah, so that's part of the tour when you come visit the Sedona Heritage Museum, and you can explore.
Okay, so I'm assuming the Elvis movie was that Stay Away Joe?
It was Stay Away Joe, and anyone who knows anything about Elvis and his movies might know that he didn't make many real good ones. Stay Away Joe is widely regarded as, of his 36 films, it's widely regarded as the 36th best. It's just awful. We actually screened it. We partnered with, you mentioned the film festival early on. We partnered with them last year, and we actually screened Stay Away Joe in one of their theaters last year as a fundraiser. And we prefaced it with a discussion about the film and that kind of stuff, but also with the caveat that we are not here to watch good cinema. We are here to have a laugh at Elvis's expense, and just kind of take it that way. But yeah, you got Joan Crawford there on the bottom. You got Jimmy Stewart in the top right. So
I'm assuming with Joan, I mean, it must have with Johnny Guitar.
Johnny Guitar, you're right.
Oh,
yep.
One of my favorite Westerns.
Yep. Top right there is Broken Arrow with Jimmy Stewart.
Okay.
And William Shatner, star of Kingdom of the Spiders. I knew you'd love that
and
one.
Star Trek. Don't forget Star Trek. But also,
I think he's known more for Kingdom of the Spiders.
Another movie that's probably not ranked as one of his best.
Probably not one of the best. Yeah. But a great, 70s, just over the top horror flicks. Just a good one. If you're looking for something
when
like
spiders attack.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what was the harmonic convergence?
1987, the harmonic convergence. It was an alignment of the Earth and the Moon and a bunch of the planets that was supposed to bring about this new era of world peace. And there were several spots on the planet that you were supposed to be able to feel the vibes, for lack of a better word, the strongest. And Sedona was one of those places. And so late August of 87, you had tens of thousands of people descending on Sedona to experience this magical cosmic moment. How do you feel about swearing on your thing here? Can I swear?
Of course you can swear.
Okay.
But first, let me drink to that.
Yeah. I've got a story that one of my fantastic volunteers told me, and it wasn't her story. It was a friend of hers. But it was just such a great story. I have to share it. So this guy was driving from Sedona to the village of Oak Creek down 179 during the harmonic convergence. And he's approaching Bell Rock, which was one of these most spiritual places. And he's just cursing everybody. You know, he's like, all these people blocking the street. I can't go anywhere. Traffic's at a complete standstill. There's people in the road. There's just people everywhere. And he's like, I live here. I don't like this. You know, this, get out of here. This is crazy. And it's dark, which makes it all the more dangerous, right? But it's dark, so you can see the planets all aligned and everything. And all of a sudden, out of the darkness, as he's looking up, this light comes out of the sky and lights up the top of Bell Rock. And he slams on the brakes and hits the steering wheel and goes, "Holy shit, it's real!" And it turned out it was the Coconino County or Yavapai County Sheriff's Department coming with their helicopter to tell people to disperse.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Great story. Great
All
story.
right, now I do. So Chris, let's see. So Thunder Mountain.
Thunder Mountain. Thank you, Chris.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so the harmonic convergence, I bring it up not just to laugh, because if you're into the new age stuff, you know, good on you. That's fantastic. But the harmonic convergence is kind of the moment where, not when Sedona becomes the spiritual place that we think of it as today, and center of new age stuff, but it's really because that had been here a while, but it's really the moment that Sedona becomes a tourist destination, and a destination for new age spirituality. So it's really that moment in 1987 when that kind of begins.
Wow. And all the vortexes.
Yep.
People actually recognizing those. Wow, that's really cool.
Yep.
All right. So what makes Sedona's famous Red Rocks red?
Yeah, it's rust. The rocks are rusting. Believe it or not.
Wait, and that's so funny because it's like people think, oh, Arizona cars, there's no rust. But no, there's rust in the rocks.
There's rust in the rocks. That's right. Yeah.
Not in our cars.
Yep. Yeah, it's iron content in the rocks, and as it gets exposed, it oxidizes, as iron does. And that's what causes the red.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I always like to ask people how they did, just because I think it's kind of fun to see. I mean, I have a feeling we had a lot of people who knew all the answers, but
well, we didn't give them any hints, so good for them.
We actually threw a couple red herrings out there, but I'm still disappointed in the theremin, because
I know
theremin.
That seemed like a very Sedona thing, though, didn't it? A theremin and guitar, steel guitar band.
Indeed. I mean, you could. Yeah. I mean,
there probably is one out there.
What are you doing when you're off of work? You have spare time. Maybe you should start one.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like it. And you know, I got to be honest. I don't know for a fact that the first crystal shop in Sedona wasn't named Harmonic Convergence. So if you pick that, you should allow yourself that point too, or maybe a half a point.
Because we can't guarantee that's.
I can't guarantee that wasn't the case.
Oh, so Nate, how do people find out more information about the Sedona Heritage Museum?
Sedona Heritage Museum, we are open 7 days a week, 11 to 3. Wow. We're in the heart of Sedona on Jordan Road in Uptown Sedona, and our big thing is local history. But you can't tell, as you can tell from this trivia game, you can't tell Sedona's history without getting into a bunch of other things, without talking about art history, without talking about music history, without talking about New Age spirituality. So we cover all sorts of things. I didn't even get into McDonald's and their turquoise arches.
Oh, you're right. You didn't even touch on that. I mean,
didn't even bring it up. But anyone who's been to Sedona and driven by McDonald's sees those turquoise arches. Only place in the world.
And it's famous.
It's famous. And there's actually a good story behind it. Do you have?
Sure, we've got time for another story.
Why not? So the story behind the turquoise arches is actually a really good one. It's not just kind of like useless pop culture history. It actually speaks to what I was talking about at the top about the community spirit in Sedona. So there is an organization that is 50. They just celebrated their 50th anniversary a year or two ago. It's called Keep Sedona Beautiful. And their big thing is the litter lifters. So if you see people out picking up litter on the sides of highways here in Sedona. That's Keep Sedona Beautiful doing that, making sure that Sedona stays a beautiful place for people to visit and enjoy. And so in the 80s, they had a huge push to reduce the number of billboards, business signs, neon, all sorts of stuff. If you saw the pictures of Sedona and uptown Sedona and the business district and the billboards along 179 and 89A, you'd be appalled by, like, they just blotted out the Red Rocks and the views and everything, right? So Keep Sedona Beautiful went on this venture to reduce the signage so it doesn't take away from the scenery. At the same time, the city of Sedona was incorporated in 1988. And so Keep Sedona Beautiful wins this sign battle. The city of Sedona comes into being, and they've got their sign ordinances they're putting into place to try to control this stuff. And at the same time, along comes McDonald's, the most powerful corporation on the planet with the most recognizable brand, right? Like literally everyone on the planet could look at those golden arches and know exactly what those mean. And they say, okay, we want to put a restaurant here and we're going to put the sign up, the whole thing. And Keep Sedona Beautiful in the city said, oh, no, you don't. We want you here. You can come, but you're not putting 40-foot high signs up here. And your arches can't be golden. They have to fit like a Southwest motif, like the background of the screen here. And the most powerful corporation on the planet bowed to that and said, okay, we will change our brand standards just because you want us to. Keep Sedona Beautiful and the people of Sedona. And so that's why they are turquoise to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. And the museum, we actually own the original set of the turquoise arches. They're on display here.
Wow. That is so cool. I mean, because, it's like Arizona also has a distinction of having the very first franchise for McDonald's.
That's correct. Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I didn't
realize there was McDonald's history right here.
There's a lot of McDonald's history right here. And then I think, was it Douglas that had the first drive-through in a McDonald's?
I think that's true. Yes.
So, yeah. So even more. So
it was for because it was for the fort down there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So, wow, even more rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah. There you go. There's your next project, Marshall.
Oh my gosh. Nate, thank you so much for coming on and sharing Sedona with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Indeed, it's great to see you. And I definitely look forward to next time I'm up there. I will definitely hit you up because I want to see the telegraph office where they filmed.
Yeah. Come on up. I'll give you a tour.
Sounds good.
And I don't know if I mentioned our website. It's easy. It's sedonamuseum.org for more information.
Oh, that's super easy.
Super easy.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Thanks, Marshall.
Thank you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh. How much fun was Nate tonight? Always a hoot. So, all right. So tonight From the Vault is something that people might drive by and not even necessarily know what it is. And so we are going to talk about, if you've been on the 10, which I'm sure almost everyone has, you might not realize it, but you're actually driving through the middle of Okemah, which was started back in the 20s as a community for African Americans who basically had settled here to work in the agriculture industry, mainly from Oklahoma and Texas. And so this is the only place right now where you see the name as you drive around. There are folks that are working around trying to preserve some of that history, which is, I think, really important that we just share those stories. And so, I mean, it really was, there was housing down there that was built specifically for the community because it was one of the few places where African Americans could own land. So many places restricted them. And I loved how in the late 40s, there were even like ads saying, hey, come down here and buy a house. And people were talking about how much it was changing the community. And so I think it's so important that the city of Phoenix as well as Arizona have both done proclamations to celebrate those communities. If you wanted more information, there is a website that you can go to that's done by the community. And also on February 24th, there's a virtual program being done by the Arizona Historical Society talking about the community as well. So well worth a fun little adventure to go down. Now, if you're watching on Facebook, you'll see why I say, click on share, because look at how much fun we're having with Arizona history. Our guest next month is the Martin Auto Museum. And I will let you in a little secret. We are going to use that chance to push probably the week after, or I don't know, later that month, we're going to be doing a free tour of the Martin Auto Museum, because it's a pretty neat place. I mean, you walk in the door and there's this Tucker, one of 48 that was built by Tucker, which then the major companies ran out of business because it was really cool. And so definitely check us out next month as well for more fun. Now, I always love to hear your stories. So please, if you have anything, please share your stories, suggestions, comments. Did you enjoy the show? I always love to give a crowd shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that intro video, as well as PJ for always keeping me lubricated. Sometimes maybe a little too well lubricated, but that's a whole other story. And so I am going to leave you with a Walt Disney Sedona commercial back in 1955 for the brand new 1955 Nash.
Gosh, Pluto, the 55 Nash sure is a beauty.
That's right, Mickey. And it has a new Jetfire V8 engine that really takes off. It's a big, solid car that whips around the sharpest curves. A family car that turns and handles like a dream. And that's not all. Nash has the widest wraparound windshield of all.
Come on, Pluto, old boy. We're going to see the 1955 Nash.
Yes, for 55, come with Nash into a new motoring age. Thrill to brand new power. A new 208 horsepower Ambassador Jetfire V8 engine to give you get-up-and-go performance that commands the American road. There's a new Scenoramic wraparound windshield, widest of any car. And for 55, Nash gives you completely new handling ease. Even on sharpest curves, you'll cling to the road like a streamlined train. Huge Nash deep coil springs, inclined at an angle, work like sea legs to give you greater stability on curves. Ever see a big family car maneuver like this? A big car that could turn like this? Yes, for a totally new driving experience, thrill test the new Nash Ambassador and Statesman at your Nash dealers tomorrow. Another reason why American Motors means more for Americans.